All right, YouTube, once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. We're talking Auburn football, sports talk. Go ahead and subscribe to Vernon Speak Sports Auburn. As you all know, down in Deep South, college football is kinging on the plains of Auburn. The battle cry is War Eagle. All right, so we're coming off the heels of SEC Media Days. There was a lot of, I wouldn't say crazy stuff going on. I think the exchange between Lane Kiffin and Paul Feinbaum was probably, I'd say, the most entertaining out of the bunch because it looks like it was just some bottled up energy there. It seems like Lane Kiffin had been waiting for his time to address Paul Feinbaum, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious because he was like, what do you do? Like, what are you good at? You talked about how I should have been fired at USC. You compared me to Miley Cyrus. I just thought that was absolutely insane coming from there. And then you had a lot of good stuff as far as Auburn goes. Kirby Smart says that Auburn is one of the toughest places to play, if not the toughest place to play in all of college football. And, Auburn had some pretty good representatives in the SEC Media Days, including Peyton Thorne, Keldrick Falk, and Eugene Asante. I was actually shocked that Jarquez Hunter was not there, and he's actually the topic on the docket today, as well as we just got to keep talking about Peyton Thorne. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive into this. One, Auburn is expected to be among the bottom tier teams of the SEC, following this at the end of this season. I can't say that at the onset that I disagree, but I think Auburn has a little bit more to work with than they have in the prior seasons. But I mean, you just don't know. It's you're basing this a lot on potential energy, and you talk about Peyton Thorne, who's expected to be one of the worst quarterbacks in the SEC, and for good reason, and we'll talk about this in this video. Now, when you talk about Auburn is not really great at producing good wide receivers. But what they can do is they're pretty good at having good running backs. And among those, Bo Jackson. I mean, I think Bo Jackson is regarded as one of the best athletes in history, actually. Excelled in baseball and football. And he's the all-time leading rusher at Auburn at 4,300 yards. Right after that is Carnell Cadillac Williams, who's a former coach there. He actually did a little bit as a head coach after the forced departure of Brian Harsin, and he was absolutely huge for Auburn's undefeated season in 2004. And after that, you got James Brooks with 3,523 yards. Joe Cribb at 3,368. Ben Tate at 3,321. Trey Mason, my goodness. He had that breakout year in 2013, led Auburn to a national championship appearance with that run-pass option that was so lethal with Nick Marshall, and an excellent offensive line and just good enough receivers to make that thing work. Part of one of the more historic efforts in Auburn history, the prayer Jordan Hare and the kick six. I mean, we can never forget that stuff. Tank Bigsby comes next on the list. At number 7. I think he could have done a lot more, but at 2903, he's number 7 in Auburn's all-time list. Stephen Davis at 2811, Brent Fullwood at 2789, and the list goes on. Now, of the top 10, Jarquez Hunter at this moment ranks as the 18th all-time at 21-28. Now, with a similar 900-yard season, he could actually surpass Trey Mason for sixth spot, but Auburn needs a little more from Hunter. And definitely needs some good stats in games, where it really counts. Having those big outbursts of yards and, he improved 158, but Hunter was not over 100 yards against any of the top 20 teams on Auburn's schedule last year. But as of now, is regarded as an all preseason All-SC running back. But in the Georgia game, Peyton Thorne, of all people, led Auburn in rushing with 92 yards, but the majority of that was 61 yards, and all running backs in that game combined for 219 yards, were probably the most insignificant yardage that you could have in a game like that. Now, let's go ahead and try this on for your mental size. Carson Beck averaged 9.5 yards per play last year. But Peyton Thorne only 6.6 yards per pass. The top rusher per carry last year, ironically, was quarterback Jaden Daniels for LSU with 8.4 per run, 1,134 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Then he turned around. That's why he won the Heisman, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. As a passer, averaged almost twice as much as Thorne with 11.7 yards per attempt and had 40. I mean, this is absolutely crazy. Had 40 touchdowns. But Thorne was 69th ranked quarterback in the country with 16 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. To be honest, it's a wonder Auburn even won 6 games last year. If Auburn will have a chance to win the games where, the things are close, let's try this on again for your mental IQ football size. Lost a combined 41 points to Texas A&M, Georgia, and LSU, Ole Miss. If I got that wrong, my bad, but it's pretty close. Who were statistically better by far. They recruited better by far on average. And some of that is inflated by a 30-point loss to LSU. Actually, it was 50-something points in that game, but it's still not much. To LSU, to Auburn. Only lost by a combined 31 points. Peyton Thorne threw no more than 102 yards in any of those games. And Hunter had a high of 91, and that included a 51-yard run against Georgia. I would say this. I want you guys to think about this. If Auburn is going to be successful, they got to get more out of Peyton Thorne and Jarquez Hunter. And it has to be more consistent. It can't be a game where, you hit big for 91 yards, but you finish the game with 150. You can't hit a big pass for Peyton Thorne of, say, 60 yards, but you finish the game with 150. That's not going to win you the games that Auburn expects to have a chance to win this year. All right, guys, this is my time. And I absolutely love talking to you all about Auburn football. Sorry for the few days lag. Had a vacation out in California where I had a great time there. Like the video, comment, and subscribe to Verner Speaks Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger.